My name is Jerry Janda, and I am a community and influencers advocate with SAP's developer and community relations team. And I am so thrilled to be part of this wonderful event. I hope you all had a great day. We're kind of winding down now, and hope we can end on a high note here with my presentation. So what I'll be talking about today, and I'll give you a quick overview. I'll explain my history with the SAP community, then some of the history with SAP community. Although if you look in the chat there, you can see that Douglas has already said it's an amazing place to learn about SAP. So maybe I don't need to say anything beyond that, but I'll maybe give a little more detail. So I'll explain what you can find in the community and how and why you should participate fully and effectively. And after that, I'll give a pretty thorough demo of the different sections within the community. And then just to wrap things up, I'll talk a little bit about some of the important resources within the community itself. So this here is my profile. You can find me at people.sap.com/jerry.janda. That'll be in the notes as well. So just to oh, my notes didn't advance there. Interesting. Okay, there we go. So I joined SAP more than 15 years ago, closer to 18 if you want to count my years as a contractor working on SAP.com. And during that time, I've held a variety of sort of marketing and communications roles, almost always focused on some form of writing. And if you're looking at my profile there, you see I have a nice round number, 100 blog posts published. So yeah, I'm definitely a writer. But I've been around the community itself since 2010. And if you go and look at the posts that I've have on the community over the years, you'll see the very first one I wrote about social media. That was back in 2010. But I became a part of the SAP community itself officially in 2016, right around when we were making the transition from what was known as the SAP Community Network, or SCN, to what we now call the SAP Community. And I'll get to that more in a minute. Initially, when I joined the SAP community team, I focused on communications and engagement within the community. Nowadays, though, I focus more on the SAP Champions Influencer Program. I'll explain more about that during the demo, though. I won't get into that just yet. And just a little history here. So you can see if we were to go back to the very, 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 very early days of what we consider community, it was 2003. And to this day, some people still will refer to the community as SDN, the SAP Developer Network. From there, it's sort of evolved into that second image you see. It became SCN, which is what I mentioned a moment ago. That stood for SAP Community Network. And then finally, in 2016, it became what we now know as SAP Community, and that's part of what I am today. Where are we now then in terms of numbers? Well, we have nearly 3 million users, rounding up to about 300,000 visits per day. Within the community, we have more than 120,000 blog posts available. And to date, we have more than 1 million questions answered. So uh, the people who come to the community, when we talk about users, I'm sure those of you are already familiar with the community. It does tend to be a technical bunch. You know, that means developers, partners, consultants, even SAP employees, especially if we're talking about product teams and those involved in development. You'll see them in SAP community all the time, although that's not strictly the case. Not all the content within the community is entirely technical all the time. For example, if you look at my blog posts, I'm not a developer, so you won't find really much technical content in what I'm providing. But what you will see is that there are things in there from like thought leaders writing about business trends. If you look at the post I mentioned earlier from 2010, when I was talking about what I was talking about earlier, excuse me, was about social media. That's what I wrote about in 2010. There are also areas within the community that have nothing to do with technology at all. They're off topic, speaking specifically about what we call the coffee corner. I will also get to that. That's a real fun way to kind of get to know people. If we kind of break down what we offer in the community, I will give during my demo a deeper explanation of all these things, but just in case I run out of time, I want to talk about things at a high level. There are questions and answers. By that, people come in, they usually look for solutions to their issues with maybe they're experiencing with SAP technology, and other members can answer. There's blogging, so you can write blog posts, you can read blog posts, you can share your knowledge, you can gain knowledge. The recognition program, excuse me, by that we talk about things like badges and earning points. So the more good quality content you provide to the community, you're rewarded with badges, you're rewarded for activity, you're rewarded by being recognized by your peers. So there are different ways that we recognize our really great members. Personalization, if you remember a couple slides back, I showed my profile landing page. There are a variety of ways you can personalize your profile so people can get to know you better. It's a great way to make connections with other members. Direct messaging, we do have a way that members can direct message with one another. The way to do that is to follow somebody and have that person follow you back. We can get into that as well. The Coffee Corner, I just mentioned that very briefly. Coffee Corner is sort of the off-topic area where people can go and have fun discussions. I spent a lot of time in Coffee Corner because, as I said, I'm really not a developer, so I can't always keep up with the more technical conversations, but I do like hanging out in Coffee Corner and getting to know people that way. Events, we'll talk about that. This obviously falls under that. And then the topic pages, which where people can get a deeper dive into information around some of the more popular products within the SAP ecosystem and portfolio. And from here, I'm going to switch over, talk a little bit about the community itself, and that's where the demo is going to come in. Just give that a second. So this here is the landing page for the community. You can see the numbers that I mentioned here right along the top. If you wanted to dive right into things, if you have a question, you can just type it in right here. All the areas I mentioned are accessible from these links along the top here. I'll get into those in more detail as well. But this is more of synopsis of some of the top content that you'll find at any given time within the community, the latest questions, the latest blog posts, and then other things that we might be highlighting at any given time. Before I go any further though, the very, very beginning, give this a second to load. I mentioned that nowadays I am mostly involved with the influencers program, and the influencers program includes things like the SAP champions and the SAP mentors. I focus primarily on the SAP champions these days, so you can see there are some links here about where you can get more information about the champions. Just very briefly, the champions are, as what it says here, the top contributors within the community. We have some of them in our call here today or in our meeting, so I'm really pleased to see people like David and Douglas. And speaking of which, if you wanted to read more about the Champions program, that we do have a page for that. And if you wanted to actually connect with the champions, and I encourage you to do so because they really are what we consider to be the best of the best amongst our membership. Not to put David on the spot here, but here's David's entry in the community influencer finder. So big kudos to David and everyone else involved with the event here today, and many thanks to them for allowing me to be part of it. I'm really, really, really happy to be here and talk to you about the community because, as you may have guessed, I'm pretty passionate about it. So moving on again, let's say you're just getting started with the community. I don't know how many of you in this session are already active in the community, but I think even if you already are active, you'll find useful information in the resources section, which is accessible up here. If you haven't already started your journey in the community, then where better to start than with getting started? It gives you all the information you need in order to register, in order to set up your account, how to set up your profile. Make sure you're getting all the information. But then there's other things on this page that you would maybe find useful. How do you get involved in questions and answers? How do you get involved in blogging? The reputation program, rules of engagement, very important. We do expect people to adhere to certain behaviors, so you want to familiarize yourself with that, and on. Community videos, which provide additional information, things of that nature. What's new, updates to the page, to the community, and things like that. But if you don't feel like doing all that reading, I know we're all a little pressed for time, that's totally fine. Another fun way to learn about the community is through our tutorials. And we have 4 currently. The tour 1 is basically your intro to the community. I highly encourage everyone to take that one. There's also a tutorial around Q&A, a tutorial on getting involved in blogging, and a tutorial on how to set up and maintain your profile. So all real fun stuff, and you would gain a lot of information, I think, especially if you're new to the community. But even if you are already a veteran, there's still stuff in here that I think you might find useful. And if nothing else, I would encourage you, I'll just give this a moment to load, to take the tour of the SAP community. You can see on the right here, this is basically just the introductory type information that'll help you get started. If you get all this stuff under your belt, I think you'll learn a lot as a result. Once you've sort of familiarized yourself with all that, the next thing you want to do is set up your profile. And I mentioned that, I mentioned personalization before. That's where all this happens. You can see on this page here, and this is a private page, so everybody has this, people.sap.com. If I wanted to see what my public profile looked like, I would just click on this, but we'll get to that in a second. You can see you can see people I'm following, followers, badges I've earned, things like that. I can set up my notifications, my communications, my privacy settings, my login settings, and on and on and on. Inbox would be where I can look to get notifications, things like that. So you want to go in here, you can put in personal info, things like that, all kinds of good stuff. And then when you come and visit my profile, this is how it would look. Well, let me take a step back for a minute. I want to mention the privacy settings. It's very important. Nowadays I know privacy is a hot issue, especially with some of the laws that came around recently. But if you don't have your profile set to public, as I do here, you can still be a member, but you will only be able to read content on the community. So if you want to connect with people, if you want to contribute content, you really do need to have your profile public. You can still indicate how much information you want to share, but you do need to have sort of a public profile if you want to really take full advantage of the community. And once I have all that information filled out, if somebody comes and visits my profile, they'll see my connections, they'll see information about me, they'll see the content information that I've provided, where where I might be active in social media or elsewhere, that type of thing. But if you want to follow somebody, I'm not I'm not picking on David here today, but you can see I'm following David, and David follows me. So you see this contact button here. I had mentioned direct messaging before. Since I'm following David and David's following me, we could do a DM conversation. I won't do that now, but you can see also he has a lot of information here where you can reach him, where he's involved, how long he's been involved in the community. And you also see these badges here. And I want to get to that in a second as well, because I think that's a fun thing. I mentioned, the recognition program. So let's talk about that for a second. Thank you, Maria. Here are different missions these are different badges you can earn. You can earn badges for taking some of those tours I mentioned earlier. You can get badges by doing great blog posts. You can get badges by being involved in Q&A. So if you provide good answers and your peers recognize that these are good answers, you can get badges that way. You get badges for being involved in great events like this one. All kinds of ways you can earn badges, and people really love those, I think, and I enjoy doing it as well. Now, I mentioned that you can get badges for the Q&A, so let's jump over to Q&A, shall we? The SAP community is set up by tags, and by that I mean you need to sort of attribute a tag or pick a tag whenever you're doing a question or a blog post. So if you were new to the community and you wanted to figure out, oh, well, where do I want to look for questions? Where do I want to look for content? You would pick one of these things. You can search. I, tend to find that, people still are like ABAP. So if we were to go over to the ABAP tag, so this is the landing page for ABAP development questions based on the tag. You can, oh, it's not showing it. Interesting. There should be a follow button here, so I could follow the ABAP development tag. I'll just have to talk around that, I'm afraid. But you can see how many questions are here, how many contributors. If I wanted to, there are different options for sorting and filtering the content. How many have gotten votes, what's new, what's been answered, what doesn't have answers. So let's say I'm an ABOP expert, I want to help people out. I might want to filter by the ABOP questions that don't have answers, and I can dive in there if I wanted to. Now, if I were to click the follow button, you can see that I do follow a few tags on the side here. SAP community, of course, is a must. SAP mentors, things like that. But if I go back to my profile for a second, in the communications area, these are the notifications I want. So let's say I want to um, be notified whenever somebody posts a blog with the tag ABOP. I would click that on, that would come into my inbox, which is within the community, this yellow dot up by my name here, or my avatar image, I should say. That indicates that I have new stuff in my inbox. But I can also get email notifications. I can do that for questions as well. So by following tags, you can get notified whenever new content comes in for a subject area that interests you. But let's go back to ABOP for a second. Oh, there it is. Now there's the follow button. Thank you. So I would just click this, and that would show up in my follow tags. And depending on my notification, my my communication settings, I would be alerted whenever content came in with the ABOP development tag. So glad that came back all of a sudden. So if I wanted to add, and then you can see up here, I've asked a question, write a blog post, or I ask a question here. When I click on that, how am I doing for time? Good. I still have some time here. Doing good. This is what the question interface looks like. So you put in your title, you ask your question, all kinds of instructions to help you along the way. Since I got to this page from the ABOP development area, you can see it's already pre-populated the correct tag for me. So then I can do all that stuff. Once a question is published, it looks like this. So just sticking in the ABOP development space, Barbara Winkler, who is this little medal next to her name indicates she's a champion as well. She was actually on one of the sessions earlier. And you can see there are different ways you can interact. In addition to following a tag, you can also follow a person. You could follow a question. So I could follow this question and I would receive notifications. If I have my communication set up in a way that allows that to happen, I can upvote and downvote the question if I think it's interesting or I don't think it's interesting. I can add comments if I wanted if the question doesn't make sense to me, I could add a comment so that the person asking the question can provide additional information. I could answer the question. I can up or downvote the question. I can comment on, the answer. I can upvote or downvote the answer. I can comment on the answer. I could provide an answer of my own if I scroll all the way down to the bottom. Well, I won't scroll all the way down, but it's at the bottom here where you would get that information. So moving on, still doing okay for time, I think. Blogs work more or less the same way. So here's the blogging entry area, again, all broken down by tags. So we'll just stick with ABOP development for now. And I can see here all the new, again, how many blog posts are associated with this tag, how many people have contributed, how many people are following this tag. There's the follow button again. Different ways I can sort of sort by likes, when it was created, popular tags if I want to jump there, the month something was published, and on and on. So all the different information for me to kind of find the blog posts that might be of interest to me. I can also, if I choose to, go right over here. I'm going to show you what the blogging interface looks like. So you would add a title, just type it up. This is based on WordPress. So if you've ever worked in WordPress, it might look familiar to you. Instructions on the side. You need to select a category. These are the different categories. Since I did come to this from the ABOP development tag area, it is pre-populated for me for convenience and other things. I should point out, I'm going to go over to the blogging resources page for a moment. Once you start blogging within SAP community, you don't have the ability to start writing right away. We want people to familiarize themselves with the community. We want them to familiarize themselves with our culture and the expectations. So you need to go through the steps here. So if you do want to start blogging on SAP Community, please do keep that in mind. The tutorials that I mentioned before are a great resource. This resources page here for blogging, also a great resource. Make sure you go through all the appropriate steps and then you can start blogging. Once you go through that, your first 2 blog posts would go to a moderator. I am part of the moderating team. I'd like to think that I'm friendly and helpful, and I'd like to think my colleagues are the same. So don't feel intimidated if you want to get started. We're here to help you. We just want to ensure that we have the best quality content in the community, which is why we expect people to kind of go through this process here. And just to give you another example of what a blog post looks like when it is live, all the options you have here. As I said, you can follow content, you can follow people, you can follow tags and get notifications depending on how you set up your communications. If I really like this blog, I can throw it a like. After I read it, I can share it, I can comment on it, I can like people's comments, I can reply to comments. You'll see alert moderator on some of these things too. So if you catch some spammers, they get sneakier and sneakier every day, it feels like. But if if you ever catch something that seems wrong on the community, please do notify us. Getting down to the last few things here, we talked about tags, but we also have something called topics. Not every tag has a topic, but every topic has a tag. The reason for that is the topics are sort of like the very high level, I don't mean to say high level, the sort of the most popular, or I would say the most popular type subjects within the community. So again, just for consistency's sake, I am sticking with ABAP development. This is what the ABAP development topic page looks like. So this would pull in information with the ABAP tag, the questions, the blog post, but also a lot more information around ABAP. So all kinds of good stuff on these topic pages. If you really wanted to do a deep dive in any sort of topic, topic page is a great place to start. And I want to make sure, because I mentioned this a couple times, I'm good for time. I have a few minutes left here. The coffee corner. This is a great area where you can talk about technical things. You can see there are some technical things in here, but then they're just fun topics like, what does the SAP community mean to you? Michelle Crapo, you can see the medal there. She is also an SAP champion indeed. So DJ Adams, who is part of my team, felt more of a developer advocate, asked the question, what's your favorite programming language? You could see this got a lot of views, a lot of comments. So all kinds of Barbara, I mentioned earlier, she's big into like climate change and studying climate change. So this is a very passionate topic for her. So what you're seeing here is the coffee corners is a place where you can come and talk about something that doesn't have to be SAP related. And then finally, very last tab here, events. So we have all kinds of events because we like to believe that even though I'm here today talking about community.sap.com, community is everywhere and anywhere. And what a wonderful proof point of that is this session here, having all of us come together outside of the community to talk about community. But you can see we do indeed have the Inside Track Barcelona online in our list of events, and you can see other events coming up. So if you really enjoyed this event, or you're looking for similar events with a community theme, I highly encourage you to go to community.sap.com/events and see what else is going on. So that ends the demo portion, but in the time that I have remaining, want to just sort of summarize. And for those of you who joined Kadi's presentation session earlier, she says that's important. So I want to make sure that I take some of the stuff that I learned today and apply it as well. Go to the community.sap.com, create a profile, make sure you have those privacy settings set to public so you can participate fully. Get started. Those resource pages are great. I have a link for those at the bottom there, but this tour the community tutorials, also a great place to start. I showed you how you can follow people, tags, questions, blog posts. Look for the stuff that interests you, follow it, get updated, interact with it. show your support. It's a great way to show support for other people and the community. You can check out the questions, get involved in the coffee corner. And here's a, if you need to, these are, maybe give everybody a minute to take a snapshot of these things. And with that, again, this was a real pleasure for me, a real thrill, a wonderful way to end a hectic week. I hope you found it useful. And I guess I'll see if there are any, it doesn't look like any questions came in the chat, but we do have a few minutes left and I'd be happy to answer any if anybody has any additional questions.
Hi, Jerry. Thanks for this very interesting session, of course, about this big community and all the content that we can enjoy.
Is there anybody else in the room with me?
Do you listen to me? Yeah. Jerry, do you listen to me?
Hi, Jerry.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
That went okay. Did that go out?
I
hate to think that I was talking to myself.
Are you listening, David?
Yes.
No, I asked to Jerry. If Jerry can listen, David.
I'm not hearing. Is David speaking? I'm not hearing him.
No. I was not speaking right
there,
now.
David?
Yes, I am here.
I don't see. I am able to see the chat. Douglas, thank you, and thanks for all you do as an SAP champion. Douglas, another one of our champions, and I'm glad you were able to join today.
Okay. I don't know, David, if Jerry can hear you, but so.
Yeah, for some reason I can't. I'm sorry that I can't hear David.
Okay, there is no question.
It looks like everybody in the stream can hear me, which is important.
Yeah.
So I don't know, gentlemen, if there aren't any questions, if we want to wrap things up, that's fine with me.
No, there are no questions.
I have one question, Jerry, from my part.
Sure, please.
I saw that it's possible to link the OpenSAP certifications in the forum, but it's possible also to link other SAP education certifications.
I don't know that that's possible at this time, but I would have to look into that for you. I'm happy to do so. So that would be one that I don't know off the top of my head because I'm not so involved in the certification side of things. But I can look into that for you.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, sure.
Do you listen to me?
No.
No.
All right. It doesn't look like we have any other questions in the chat, at least that I'm seeing. So entirely up to you if you want to sort of wrap it up here.
No question here in the chat.
Okay.
So maybe they will put later in the forum.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can just say, if you're still looking at the stream, you can see where, please follow me on the community. If you have an account in the community, follow me. I always follow people back so they can DM me if they want to. And that way, if you do have additional questions later, I'm always happy to have that chat with people. So by all means, feel free to reach out to me if I can assist in any way. I'm always happy to do so.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jerry.
And thank you all. And thanks for allowing me to be part of this, and enjoy the remainder of your evening, your afternoon, as the case may be.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
So now we have a few minutes, 2 minutes to check.
Okay. All right. I guess I will then drop out. Thanks again for allowing me to do this. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the one earlier. I really liked this one as well. And I hope it was a very successful event for the both of you.
Thank you, Jerry. You're welcome.
Okay,
Bye.
talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.